Today we'll be talking about the drug abuse epidemic in Nigeria. And I'm sure many people will be shocked to hear the word epidemic used in this regard. Dr. Dokun, it's a pleasure to have you with us once more on the program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Always a pleasure, you know that.
Yes, and we also are fortunate to have Mr. Babafemi from NDLEA with us on the program as well. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure being here, though it's my first time, I think.
Yes. So, Dr. Dokun, can you talk to us? What is drug abuse in general? Just tell us, what is drug abuse and why are we calling it an epidemic at this time?
I like the fact that you say drug abuse, but we're beginning to move out of that scope of drug abuse. We are saying substance abuse. We say abuse in the sense that these are substances, they're chemical substances that are used that are not for beneficial purposes and not directly prescribed, but people derive some benefit, supposedly so from it. And so when it then becomes a vogue in which the person becomes dependent on it, it becomes an abuse, and then is now in the state of what you said in our country, we're in a process of epidemic. And there's no other way of defining it, if you look at what the statistics is telling us. So, and the sad thing is, the last report was in 2018, and a new one, if it should come out in the next 1 year, would be shocking, because the speed of increase is frightening. And the other thing that is frightening about is the age of use is coming down. We see people as young as 9 using substances.
So can you tell us, because I know that, the World Drug Abuse Day took place on the 26th, and we're talking about it now. And we want to know, what are these substances? Who is using them? How did it get to this?
Right. If you say who is using them for, let me speak to what the statistics say when they did the survey. They did a survey of Nigerians between ages 16 and 64. And then they did the prevalence rate of use of these substances. And what I'm saying is the whole spectrum of, and I can tell that it's even getting lower than that. But if you then look at what the substances that are abused, let me start from the way I would simply define it. If you say acceptable, substances that are acceptable in the society, socially acceptable substances like alcohol and cigarette. So that's the way you will look at it. And then every category of alcohol falls into this. And then when you move to illicit substance use. That is the ones that are illegal, that should not even be found on you. Then you go to prescription drugs, which is also, that should be frightening to the society today. These are drugs that are prescribed rightfully in hospital for certain conditions, but people have found a way to use them for other benefits to themselves. But the unfortunate thing is the dosage at which you see their appearances on the market, it is not the hospital prescribed dosage. Let me use the example of tramadol. Tramadol is 50 milligrams, and they tell you use it maybe twice a day for about 3 days. The tramadol people buy on the street start from 225 milligrams to 250 to 500 to 1,000 milligrams. And then we then come into another category that I call miscellaneous. Why do I call miscellaneous? Because you can't classify them as drugs per se. Methylated spirit, petrol, inhalants, aerosols, and then, when you rub out Evostic glue. So how do you begin, or pit latrine, fumes from pit latrine? How do you classify that? That's not a drug. And then you also look at something that are naturally occurring substances like zacamicid. That one is being analyzed by NDLEA now to know the psychoactive components. And the other one that is very common in the Southwest is what is called gegemu. And so when you look at the gamut of all those, and this is just speaking in terms of what we know, but there's so many concoctions going on that people are producing themselves, concocting. Today in Nigeria, people are manufacturing methamphetamine, which is called crystal meth, which is also called ice on the street, which is called miri in the East. There are laboratories in this country today that are manufacturing it. At least the NDLEA has discovered about 30 of them. And then so you can begin to understand the pervasive nature of all these substances and the availability and it. And unfortunately, they're becoming affordable.
Now, what we'd like to know is why, okay? Because you say people are deriving benefits. What kind of benefits, particularly for those who don't take these substances? It's like a mystery. What is it that people are looking for in this, by taking these substances? What are they finding there, as they say?
Something that I like the fact that you are talking about it in this way, and that is why we're beginning to let people understand that the people who use drugs are human beings like us, who for one reason or the other, position of disillusionment, frustration, sometimes ignorance, sometimes bullying, sometimes emanating basically from family disruption. When I say disruption, I don't mean that they are separated. Sometimes families are together, but they are not truly emotionally present in the lives of their children. And so when those things happen, people don't find someone to talk to, then they find somebody else to talk to who accommodates them, no matter their feelings. And then so when you say, what are they looking for? People are looking for fun. People are looking for happiness. And then sometimes they say they derive some fun, some happiness, some away from my problem. And those are the kind of things, and people find things that they are looking for because they are there.
So you're talking about some sort of escape. It's like an escape.
Absolutely.
They can escape into a different world with some of these substances that takes them away from their problem for a while.
Absolutely. I mean, like a child who says to me, my mother shouts too much. You never do anything right. She's always, so in order to get away from it, probably start on alcohol that sort of make him somehow, he can't listen, he can't hear, he can't feel anything in that process. Until then finds alcohol does not last for too long. The abuse lasts longer than the alcohol, looks for something higher. And they keep progressing until they fall into this misadventure. And so that is why the theme for this year is talking about the people, why we need to consider people, why we need to stop the stigma, stop the discrimination, so people can look for help. People can talk about it and say, look, I have an issue, I need help. If we continue to stigmatize and discriminate, we will be driving the problem under the ground and it will be festering, which is what we are having today. And so that's why what you're doing today is so important. We all must wake up and see the collective responsibility to tackle.
I strongly agree with this. And that's why we want to talk about it and really understand what the motivation is behind it, why people are doing it, what are they benefiting from it, and then so we can turn around and say, okay, what can we do to help?
If you look at, today, some young people are using tramadol for sexual enhancement. So, it's the kind of things that happen in the society when people begin to talk. Oh, I can last for 1 hour. I can last for this. Or if you do 3 minutes, you are a weakling. The sense of competitive experimentation. And so people then say, if you take tramadol, you can last for a whole day. Or if you do this, you can do this. And then so people begin to look for things to prove. In order to prove, the important thing is also the undergirding element that I have found is a poor sense of self-esteem. Because what should you be looking for? If somebody can do 1 hour, that is his problem. I don't need 1 hour to gratiate myself. So if people begin to have a sense of self, we begin to get satisfied with your ability, and then you don't look for something to help you enhance what does not exist. Because in the process of enhancing, you are going to get into more problems, either with your health. People can then have attacks and then die. And then, so what is the benefit? So that is why the basis of what NDLEA is doing now about increasing awareness is so important, what you are doing. So when people begin to see the futility of such escape or such enhancement, the demand for supply, for the drugs will begin to decline. If we don't do it, we're going to run into it in 5 years' time. There's no doubt about it. No doubt at all in my mind.
Wow, Mr. Babafemi, if you can just step in here and tell us a bit about what Dr. Dokun has been alluding to in terms of what you are doing for in terms of creating awareness. Can you tell us what is the NDLEA doing about this crisis?
Yeah, let me take off from where Dr. Dokun stopped, and that is the way things are going. If we all don't come together in a whole society approach to address this problem, then we may ultimately, either directly or indirectly, be victims of this in the nearest future. And so, to mobilize everyone to get on board, to make use or take advantage of their spheres of influence to be a part of this campaign, the agency began an advocacy drive precisely this day, 2021, that is June 26, 2021, on a day like this, to launch what we call War Against Drug Abuse. That is WADA Advocacy Initiative, and that's the whole essence of that is to mobilize everyone, every strata of the society, at the individual level, at the family level, school level, religious, faith-based organizations, communities, traditional institutions, everybody, so that we can all buy in and take ownership of this. At that point, it's no longer about one agency of government, it's no longer about the government itself, it's about us collectively, so that we can all do something wherever we find ourselves, whether at the family level, as parents. I mean, we need to wake up and get intentional about parenting. We need to pay attention to what is happening to our kids at home and what they do outside and all of this, the friendship, the group, the moving, and all those kind of things. Then at the level of faith-based organization in churches, in mosques, we also try to mobilize the leaders there to also make sure that, because we are a religious people, we listen to our religious leaders a lot. And so we expect also the religious leaders to also take advantage of the platform they have to talk about the issue of substance abuse, so that these people can always have this in their minds. And when they get to that point where they want to succumb to the pressure of abusing substance, they will always remember what their religious leaders have told them about this. So that may deter them or stop them from going into that. And going to the community, going to the traditional institution, mobilizing everybody as a whole. That's to raise the level of awareness, and that has been going on. Not only what the agency is driving or doing alone, we're working with quite a lot of stakeholders in this regard, talking of civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, and leaders at these levels that have mentioned and referred to, so that they can all play their own roles in the whole effort. That's as far as that is concerned. And for those who are already into this trap, that is, those that are already abusing these illicit substances, we also recognize the fact that they need help. And so the agency is broadening its its services, apart from the drug supply reduction, apart from the law enforcement, getting people arrested and then prosecuting them. We're also opening up our commands, our offices, where we have counseling and rehabilitation facilities, so that people can be confident enough. We want them to know that we want to build that confidence in them, that when you are into this problem, when you have this issue, you shouldn't be scared of being arrested by the agency. Submit yourself freely, and we would protect you, would care for you, and ensure that you get the needed help. And for those that may still have that fear of being arrested, or even of being judged or being stigmatized by the society, we've also gone ahead to also provide a platform that is called our Drug Abuse Call Center, where we have mental health experts, psychologists, counselors, psychotherapists, as well as psychiatric doctors who run the shift, work there 24/7, and they provide service for people in form of teletherapy, as well as also guiding people for those that need to check into rehab centers, also guiding them and following up with them to ensure that they move check into the nearest rehab center close to them, so that they can get the needed help. And
that's fantastic. But can I ask for the number? Because people are listening now, and I must tell you, a lot of people are not aware. of what you are doing, the amazing work you're doing. Can you give the number out right now for people who are listening? Because there are so many people who are looking for this kind of help. Please.
It's okay. Well, the number, I'll first say the number is 0800 10 20 30 40. 0800 10 20 30 40. That is 0800 1020 3040. And one good thing about this number also, apart from the fact that it's toll free, they are not paying for the call, it's also language friendly. For those who can speak English, our experts are there to address them, to take their complaints, their issues in English. For those who they can only speak Pidgin, they can also speak to them in Pidgin. And beyond that, we also have the three major Nigerian languages, which is Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, also available for conversation in this center. And I also like to say that indeed, this center was opened last year, and ever since then, every week we produce this number. We do 3 to 5 minute video every week that we share on all our platforms and across social media, even including TV stations. These have been advertised over and over. Every week we do all of this just to make sure that people, and every opportunity we have like this, we also make sure that we make this available for people to seize the opportunity and seek help through this platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, Dr. Dokun, that has been a powerful first half. But you know, people are listening to this program and thinking, you know what, this problem, it can't be affecting me, you know. I wonder who it's affecting. Can you tell us who is exposed? How do we know? How can we, some of us, look into our own homes and say our children, our wards, even our grandchildren? How can we tell that if this problem is actually in our own houses?
I can tell you without any doubt in my mind that virtually every one of us is exposed. I am being serious about it. There's no university in this country today that does not have a drug problem. There is not one. I don't care the leaning, whether Christian or Muslim or whatever. If you take 10 students at random, male, female, at least 7 will test positive to drugs.
7 out of 10.
I'm telling you that. And you know, the unfortunate thing is the schools are now depending too much on doing tests without being observant and without offering help. So what the students have done is to find substances that this test cannot catch. I know a particular university that the students are using drugs, a particular one that is testing negative in their school. So the school thinks there's no problem. That is it. And let me say something. People cannot just wake up and become close to their children without establishing a relationship from way back. You can't wake up in the teenage year and say, oh, my son, no, you've lost your son years ago because you were not there emotionally. Those are the issues we need to begin to look at. We externalize this. We think it's only with the motor park. It's not true. Doctors use drugs. Nurses use drugs. Pilots use drugs. No profession in this country is immune to substance use. So what we need to begin to look at is the society. And when we do that, why are we testing? Is it to punish? We can't afford to be punitive. These people are children. They are sons and daughters and husbands and wives. We need to show empathy and compassion. Many of them, people can use drugs without knowing. You go to a party, you eat jollof rice. You don't know what is in it. You take cookies, you take brownies, you don't know what's in it. You take drinks, even water, they can be injected. And then you say, oh, I can be, you can't be. I mean, so the thing is, what about your driver? What about your cook? What about domestic servant? Do you know what they do? And then we say, oh, no. It's so important that we wake up. And this is the reality point we must get to, a reflective point, and say, hey, it can be me. Because why you say it's somebody else's child? Is that somebody else's child, not somebody else's friend, or somebody else's boyfriend? So if you don't take cognizance of those relationships and you keep cocooned in, we're running into trouble. I think we need to wake up. Offices, are beginning to get inflicted with this because people leave school, they didn't get caught, they come and work in your office. NYC did test some time ago, about 40% of the people were positive. Where would they be put? Would they not be transferred to schools and office spaces? So there must be a workplace policy on substance use so that we can begin to help ourselves. The important thing is we must use the opportunities we have now, knowing the facts, to help ourselves as a people. Because eventually we touch each and any of us in particular and direct ways. So this is the time. And programs like this will help us to have an insight, and then we begin to do this. We're in an epidemic, there's no doubt about it. This is the time to begin to do the restorative work.
Mr. Babafemi, hearing this now, yes, you know, do you have any specific programs within universities and other places? What is the kind of response that you are getting when you're reaching out to people? Are you getting a positive response, as in people turning away, or are you having people running away from you still and carrying on with their own, what I call, you know, disruptive behavior?
No, absolutely. I would say that indeed, one, we are glad at the level of awareness that is being created across the country. I mean, just on Friday, actually, since we started preparations for today, that's this World Drug Day, we've been having quiz competitions, essay competitions in schools just to raise their level of awareness and also to test their level of knowledge about substance abuse. And I'll tell you, the finals that we had on Friday in partnership with MTN Foundation and UNODC was awesome. I mean, seeing the level of awareness and knowledge about, these students about substance abuse and the effects of substance abuse on their lives and the society at large really creates some level of...
yeah, but there's one thing about understanding it. It's another thing to do something to stop. How are we stopping?
No, absolutely. One of the first engagements we've been able to do was to take the campaign to the schools, across layers of school level, talking of primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. And in fact, we started with universities, that's drug-free campus campaign with the University of Abuja here, where we also sought partnership with Committee of Vice Chancellors to be able to, one, if we can have that level of collaboration where the agency will have its booth on those campuses, that is on the one hand. And on the other hand, again, we also set up what we call WADA clubs, War Against Drug Abuse clubs, on these campuses, where, managed and handled by the students and the authorities of such institutions themselves, so that they can continually engage with other members of the community, university community, and this way.
Yeah, that's so important. But if I may just jump in there, because we have no time left, we actually have less than a minute. Dr. Dokun, is this enough? What more needs to be done? These are your last words.
For me, I think we should now zero in on families. Parents need to be parents again. We cannot abdicate our responsibilities to housemaid and drivers and all the rest of it. We must be involved in the lives of our kids. Fathers must begin to attend parents-teacher association meeting. And we must allow our children to make decisions that regard themselves in conjunction with the parents. We can't be making decisions on their behalf without their consent. Most unfair.
Okay, so what then do we want to leave people who are listening with now? Absolutely.
There is hope. There is hope.
Good.
We should not turn our eyes away from, you don't turn away diabetic from medication or hypertensive. Addiction is also a public health issue, which must be seen in that aspect. So you can't throw, as long as you still manage a diabetic, a hypertensive, manage a drug addicted person. And then the person, when we show enough love and compassion, which is not medications in itself, we can get better results.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Babafemi, we're talking, you've talked about what you're doing in all of these institutions, and a suggestion has been made that, you need to make more public service announcements. Can you tell us, what are you doing in terms of public service announcements? And more importantly, with what Dr. Dokun said about parenting, how are you reaching into the homes? And is there anything that you're doing to address this at the family level?
Yes, I absolutely agree with Dr. Dokun on the fact that there is need for intentional parenting. Parents need to be parents. Again, they need to wake up to their responsibility. And I'll tell you that's why we devised the platforms, places where we go to engage with leaders of those sectors, of those constituencies. That is, we know every family goes to a church or goes to a mosque. Every family has institutions or schools where they go to, or workplaces. I tell you that in all across the country, we have our officers, our commands working with civil society organizations and non-governmental organizations, going to all of these places to engage with them so that they continue to make this a sing song. They continue to engage with them, discussing this with them so that they can also go back home and share this with their sons and daughters. But beyond that, we also target these young people also. We target them through advocacy messages. Like I said before, we produce TV commercials produced by their favorite entertainment industry people they know, people they identify, so that they can also connect with the message coming from them. We also work with a number of people from the entertainment industry because, again, quite a number of problem comes from that sector because of the content shunned out there by some people in the so-called, the people we call celebrities. So we understand that, and so we also have to engage with that sector.
Yeah, because a lot of them actually take drugs, and it's very well known. They take drugs before they come on stage. They're all abusing.
Absolutely. Beyond even taking these substances, they also glamorize or glorify these things in their videos, in their content they put online. And a lot of these young people are misled because of these things they watch, because they see their role models doing this. They believe that is the new norm, that is the right thing. So we also engage with them so that we can also create a portion of that, of that particular industry that would also send counter messages, that would give the right messages that we want these people to hear, to see, and to listen to. And that we've been doing. And at the same time, we'd also get to break down these messages in local languages on radio jingles, because radio goes far into the communities. And so we also get these things in those languages so that the people in the communities can also understand this. And more importantly, because we also notice, like I said, that these young people are on social, they spend a lot of their time on social media. So we have to move fully also on social media to ensure that everything we do in the public space through the conventional media, we also do on the social media. And then we have to create 2 hours for them every Friday, 3 to 5 p.m., where we engage with them on Twitter space. And I can tell you that that has been very tremendous. We've had quite a lot of professionals across the world joining that conversation every Friday, and quite a number. We do this also bringing those that have gone through treatment rehabilitation to come and share their own story, because sometimes hearing is believing. When you see somebody that has gone through it in real life, they tend to connect very well with that. So we brought quite a lot of young people also that have gone through this process, who can tell them the impact, the effect, what this thing has done to them. We see quite a lot of professionals, pharmacists, nurses, professionals in different fields that have gone through this process. Those that are even still recovering, all of them have come forth on that space to engage, to share their experiences with them. And that way, we're trying to discourage, using that to discourage them and get them to understand the effects of abusing these substances.
Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Dokun, if I can then just challenge you, because I want to challenge you on this front, because, you've talked about parents being parenting. You've talked about them stopping to leaving their children with house help, etc. But you yourself know the challenges that parents are going through in Nigeria today, how difficult it is to make ends meet, how parents are working morning to night and their money is just devaluing by the second. The crisis some of these parents are going through. How can they, I mean, what can they do? Because some of them are just, running from pillar to post, even just to put food on the table. And they are actually, yes, they are abandoning their children in that sense, but even that guilt is even affecting the parents themselves and can even turn those parents to drinking alcohol or doing other things. So how do we deal with the crisis? It's more than just a parental crisis. I would call it a national crisis.
Yes, you can call it national. Started with individuals from the home. I know I'm not denigrating the fact that parents have issues, but I'm beginning to ask people to begin to be introspective. What I'm saying is, what do we tell our young people that want to get married today? What are the values they see in marriage? Many of these young people don't talk about the essence of marriage, about how to live together, the values they share. They talk about the hair you put on, your nails, and all those things. And when they now get married, people don't plan marriage in the sense that should anybody today getting married have more than 2 children? Those are questions for us to begin to ask, which means that population control must also be integrated into all this language. Because if you have 2, 3, 4 children, in this context of our economic, you will have problems. But when the person has a child, you know that then you can say to yourself, my wife, I can go to work from 4, come back at 7. You need to be a teacher. You need to be a lawyer. You mean who can control the time and the time space and the opportunity to be with the child? Do you know in England, is it any different the way people are in economic basis? A minister will resign to say, oh, my children are getting to teenage years. I want to stay at home so that I can stay with them. No Nigerian family ever does that. And even the rich people are worse off in terms of taking care of their children. They have the wherewithal, but there's no emotional content in what they give. You can give all the money in the world. Can I tell you something, Pamela? Many of these children, in talking to me, have said they don't need the money we give to them. They don't need the holiday we afford them. They just need to be able to talk to their father. Their father, this is what I'm going through. A father who does not know the ability of his son, who has not watched the child develop, wants him to be a doctor because his friend's son is a doctor. And then you don't know the economic potential of the academic potential of this boy. So he begins to struggle in school. When he struggles with the courses you've chosen for him, he begins, and then drugs come in. There's so many things, they look minute. The PTA, how many fathers go to PTA? They think it's for the mom, and the mom too does not have time. So the thing to ask ourselves is, what is the basis of family? Why am I raising a family? Even if I've made all this money run around to make ends meet, and when I begin to have a child in drug, everything is wasted. So it's about thinking, it's about value system. And I can tell you something for free, Pamela. Many parents today suffer from low self-esteem themselves. Without knowing it, a man can be an MD, yet he has low self-esteem. That's why you see them brutalize their staff. That's why you see them talk anyhow, because that is the way to make sure the authority is known. If we don't begin to check this by being introspective and understanding that Shakespeare said, know thyself, to thy own self you cannot be false. So if we don't do that,
and
it begins to reflect.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, Socrates said, an unexamined life is not a life worth living. There's a truth in this. There's a fundamental truth in that we have to sit back. We really have to sit down and make account and see if there's any way to rectify it. Because I think there's no, it's never too late to take that step to move closer to someone, to even apologize for not being there, to hold them and let them know that you care.
Pamela, ask yourself, how many parents can apologize to their children? You see, I tell them when they come to us with their children, I say, you need a family roundtable, and then truth be said. And let your children, and tell them you're sorry for the time you've been away. This is, can we make amends? But people come back and they want to throw their weight. I'm your father. I know what is good for you. You don't know what is good for your child. You're only pretending, only from basis of experience. But you don't know what your child is going through. You don't know the dimension of life. A child, look, I give them an example of Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka is not a medical doctor, but he's one of the best known men on the face of the earth. He read literature. So the thing is, it is not what a man reads that makes him, it's the quality of what he has read and what he makes of it. And that's what we parents need to understand and impart to these children. Somebody can read fine art and yet be fantastic one that's already read medicine. You see, so it's a bit of understanding, and that's why I say parenting. So when parents say, what do you want me to do? I need to work. Yes, we understand you need to work. But when we were growing up, my father used to be a banker. When he came back, he would sit with us, not every night. We begin to tell us stories. And he never told us stories about money. He would tell us about value system, how he grew up. Who does that today? Most parents even cheat for their sons in school. They go and buy them grades. So what are you telling me? What are you telling the child? The man drives his car in the estate. He drives opposite, and then in the morning, because he's rushing his children to school, what do you think the children are learning? So the value system is warped. If we don't rebuild that value system in this country, we're leaving room for parental dissonance. It's a really fundamental thing that we need to go back to, and we must talk about it every day.
No, that's why we're talking about it. We're extending the program now because this is just so important. Thank you so much, Dr. Dokun, because I think that whole issue of values is something we need to talk about, and we need to talk about it again and again. I really appreciate your coming on the program. Mr. Babafemi, I think what NDLEA is doing is tremendous. And I want to say kudos to the NDLEA for taking this track. It's refreshing. It's important. It's so strategic. And I know that we will all be better off for it at the end of the day. Thank you so much
for coming
on the program. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for new video updates.